Today, we are finally beginning our solo DragonBane TTRPG, using the Downcrawl decks, and a bunch of other really fun supplements. Because you see, the world is in peril. A book, a sacred book, has been scattered across the realm, and the only one that can save us is one senile old wizard. So, let's break it down.
Magic is not common in this world. It is not trusted, and it most of all is never free. Once, long ago, there stood a great library. Stone halls filled with forgotten names, dangerous ideas, and knowledge no one remembered how to use safely. And most who passed its doors just believed it to be abandoned. But they were wrong. See, I was its caretaker. I'm not a master wizard, not a hero, just a man tasked with dust, silence, and keeping old things right where they belonged. But the library burned. All that remains is ash and a mistake that did not stay buried. You see, a book was torn apart to save the world from itself. I scattered its pages, and now its knowledge is loose. Now, those pages resurface, one town at a time. Miracles twisted into disasters. Power placed in the hands of the desperate, the cruel, and the foolish. Now I, Willie the Wizard, wander the roads once more, not seeking glory, not seeking forgiveness, but only to find what was lost. The pages. They must be collected before the world ends in all the wrong ways. This is my task, and I must accomplish it, no matter the cost.
Well, hi, hello, everybody. My name is Turk, and welcome back to the Grouch Couch. Around here, we do all different kinds of weird TTRPG things, but today we are starting our solo DragonBane adventure. Thank you so much for joining me. Now, I know a lot of you click on this first episode just to see how I am soloing DragonBane, to see if you can do it yourself and get a little bit of tips and tricks on your own campaign. So, of course, in this episode, I'm going to explain all of the supplements I'm using and the way that I do things a little bit, just to help you on your own solo journey through DragonBane. But secondly, I should say, I have been told that I solo things a little bit different than other people. Some folks really, really love it. Some people, not so much. And that's okay. The main idea here is that I am having fun. And I hope that you, if you decide to stick along through the whole series, have fun as well. My stories do tend to be a little bit more narrative, and I do a lot of dialogue and voices and stuff. But I am telling a story, playing a story. So I hope that that's something that you enjoy. Now, before I mention all of these supplements and things that I will be using in this here series, just know that there are links down in the description that you can use to pick up these supplements and books and things. And by using those links, it helps support the show here, which allows me to continue making more videos on cooler and cooler stuff. So thank you so much for clicky-clacking on them links. Second bit of YouTube jibber jabber is that I plan to do a full series here of DragonBane. But the more likes that the episode gets, the more episodes I will do in the future. So if you enjoy this series a lot, make sure to leave a like, because then I will make sure to do more episodes. That's right. So first and foremost, we will be using the DragonBane rules, which we have here. There are a lot of roll charts and things in this system that you can use to help you on your solo adventure. There is a really fun little oracle in the Alone in Deepfall Breach here, the solo book itself, that we will be using, of course, because we're going to try our best to use and utilize as much DragonBane stuff as we can. And it is this little fortune chart down here at the bottom. We're going to be using that a lot. But additionally, there are some other things that we're going to be using, as you can see here. I have this Downcrawl deck right here, and this is a fantastic solo resource. In a week's time from when it gets posted, there will be a full review and how to use the Downcrawl decks here on the channel if you want to check that out, right? But essentially, in a nutshell, if we have questions about details, this is basically going to be our subwords kind of deck of cards. We're going to use these Downcrawls cards right here. So if we want to know about a new location, we can actually flip a card at any point and we can get words. So right here we have a stony maze or a stony migration route, or we can get other kinds of fun things like idea words for beasts or props of bones. We can also get kind of like smaller places. We can get a haunted pond or a new square for an urban kind of area. There are other kinds of fun things on here like NPCs and other kinds of stuff. There's also dice rolls and yes or no answers right here on the cards, which we might use a little bit as well if we feel like we want to. But that's where a lot of our details are going to come from. And I have two of the decks. I also have the encounter deck coming in the mail as well. So once that gets here, we will be using the encounter deck a little bit. Now, when it comes to fleshing out a little bit more details, we're actually going to be using Table Fables. And of course, I have a full review of this on the channel as well. You can check it out. It's got all different kinds of fantasy stuff in here about details for taverns and other kinds of fun stuff that we will be rolling on occasionally. And this book is just full of beautiful tables. Now, when it comes to our maps, as you can see, I do have a digital thing going on here, which I will talk about in a second, but we will not be using the digital maps. I actually have, this here is the map library by Roll and Play Press Library. They sent it over to me about a year ago for review, and I actually think it's going to be fun to use. Has a lot of maps in it, as you can see. So at any point, if we're going to do a battle, we're going to be using one of these maps from the map library. This thing is fantastic. Now, as you can see, I do have this up here. This is Foundry, and I have Foundry here on my tablet. You can get touch controls as a module on Foundry to be able to use it. This helped me kind of put together my character sheet, simplified it a little bit for me. So we have our full-on Willie the Wizard character sheet right here. But the main reason I decided to put this together is because instead of having to flip through dozens and dozens of DragonBane pages, because one of the critiques about the DragonBane rules is that all of the roll tables are not compiled into a nice little solo book. There are roll tables in Deepfall Breach, as well as there are roll tables in the adventures, there are roll tables in the rules, good useful things like for NPCs and other kinds of stuff. So here on Foundry, I picked up the module for DragonBane. I think it's like $30 USD. You can get the module, and you can go over to your roll tables, and in here now you can see I have all of the solo roll tables in here. I do not plan on rolling in Foundry, but let's say I want to scavenge roll. I can actually click on it and it gives me the roll table here. As you can see, it's a 1d10 and those are our results. So then we'll come over to our d10 and we will roll it and then just look at the roll chart. So this is a way for me to just be able to see the roll charts easily. Because when you're playing solo, you're going to be using a lot of roll charts. And man, I love me a good roll chart. Anyways, this is also going to be useful because in this campaign, I do not plan on playing one single character. A lot of you guys know my Walking Dead series. I built a full party over time. We're going to be doing the same thing here in DragonBane. We're going to be recruiting people to our party to help us if we possibly can. And being able to quickly build out character sheets in Foundry is going to be a fantastic thing. And of course, we have our Willie the Wizard. This is a wooden token. I don't remember where I got it from, but front and back, which is really fun. This is our token we will be using on our maps. And we will be rolling the physical DragonBane dice that come with the set right there. I think that settles it. Sure, over the course of this campaign, I will be adding in and removing some stuff from our play as I deem fit. Some things might work better, some things might not. So if you follow along with the series, you'll kind of see. And I hope that this was a little bit helpful for you as well if you're setting up to do a DragonBane adventure. My other critique for DragonBane, everything's beautiful, besides the roll charts, is that there's no good magical items in this system at all. Even in their new one, Path of Glory, I didn't really see any good magical items in there. So we will actually be developing our own magical items as we go. And I've been doing some research on some other supplements we may get later in the future. But now let's talk a little bit about our setting and our starting adventure concept. Our overall campaign idea, the background of our world. We will be using the lore in the world of DragonBane itself as best that I can. Obviously, the locations and the NPCs will be rolled up randomly, but the overall lore of this realm that we're in, we're going to try and keep to, at least as much as they have provided to us, which really isn't a lot. So we're going to build on that a little bit. Now, let's talk about our character. Secondly, you already seen the intro bit. It is Willie the Wizard, and I have his character sheet here. And Willie the Wizard is a human mage. He's very eccentric, he is very boastful, but he is endlessly curious about the world around him. Fun things to remember. Of course, Willie the Wizard enjoys the simple comforts of the world, tea and warmth and nice quiet nights. And I wouldn't say that Willie the Wizard is a heavy drinker, but would drink a good mead if ever offered it, especially if it was something new or strange, or something he hasn't ever had before. Of course, Willie, you've seen his appearance a little bit, and that's kind of what we're going to stick with. And there are some of you guys who have been following the show for a long time. You know Willie the Wizard. We've actually written a comic about him and everything else like that. I'm actually kind of treating this here DragonBane like his origin story, like the very beginning. So anyone who has never seen Willie before, have no fear. You're in the perfect place. Now, an important part about Willie the Wizard, if you've seen, he has a staff with a skull on it, and this is kind of like the mascot for the channel a little bit. The skull's name is Charles. I've reiterated it in a couple different kinds of ways, but the important thing to know about Charles and in this world is that Charles is Willie's magic staff, which is kind of his focus. But the skull itself is a sentient skull named Charles, and Charles is a bound demon from ancient times, linking it a little bit with our DragonBane lore. Charles is able to communicate telepathically with whomever is currently bonded or linked with the staff. Now, Charles possesses a wealth of knowledge of magic and demons and other things from ancient times, but Charles cannot act directly, right? He cannot do anything system-wise. He cannot do any kind of actions at all except mentally talk to Willie the Wizard. Now, Charles is always helpful to Willie, and that's why he keeps him around, but he is manipulative and definitely not trustworthy because Charles is still a demon at the end of the day, and Charles still wants the demons to succeed in this world, right? Definitely has some kind of resentment towards humans, a little bit, I would say. Now, from Willie's childhood, he was actually bonded to a dragon called Nissandra. Willie called her Nessie. Nessie was a rare purple dragon that Willie actually helped hatch during his youth, just out of arrogance, I think, or even just curiosity. And Willie bonded with this dragon as well. But Nissandra left whenever she fully matured and became a full dragon. Willie does not know why. Her disappearance could be tied to some kind of ancient magic. It may kind of connect a little bit to our world and our backstory, but I think that once she was matured, she was called off somewhere else, right? So not only is Willie a little bit bonded to a demon, he's a little bit bonded to a dragon in this world. And I think that that's a lot of fun. And these actually link to his backstory in other places that I've used him, so it actually works out perfectly. So from the intro, Willie was a caretaker of old dusty tomes in a grand library here somewhere in the Misty Vale, and this library was for sure dedicated to ancient knowledge. And there was a magical disaster involving a very ancient book that I think I'm going to call the Codex of Ash and Scale. And because of this, the library was destroyed. But to prevent total catastrophe, Willie himself desperately used magic to tear the codex apart and sent the pages scattering across the world. Something happened with the book when he was putting it away. He might have been a little bit curious and started reading it himself and opened up to a page that was very wrong, and it activated ancient demon magic. So he separated the pages and sent them across the world. But here lies an issue. These pages themselves contain spells of ancient magic that a lot of people don't understand. And these pages themselves are dangerous in the world. And that's why it was even in the ancient library in the first place, being kept safe. So each page of this book itself in our story is going to act independently and can cause miracles, disasters, or just reality-altering effects. And many of the pages, again, contain deadly knowledge or forbidden knowledge, right? So now, the campaign premise that we're in is that Willie the Wizard now wanders the world. He's trying to locate and recover the scattered pages of the Codex before they cause further destruction. So each settlement that we wander into may show signs of a page having been used. And of course, Willie seeks to find them, stop the effects, retrieve the page, possibly destroy it if he has to, and prevent the knowledge from spreading even further. One thing I do want to note is that because the library burned down, the Grand Maester blames Willie for this tragedy, and he was kicked out of this village that he was in, this town he was living in, because the library was burned down. So as a ulterior motive, not only to save the world, but to try and collect all these pages, he's hoping that by doing so, he'll get entrance back into the Grand Maester's goodwill so that he can get access to knowledge again and continue growing his mind. Right. He wants to be forgiven for his wrongdoing, even though he still believes he did the right thing by stopping the book from completely destroying the whole world. That being said, DragonBane is not an easy game, right? It can be very difficult. Going up against a monster, monsters' attacks just hit. They don't have to roll to hit. They just deal damage. Your only option is to block or move or parry, right? If you even have the opportunity to do so. So this game can be very difficult. So the idea here is that not only is Willie trying to find these pages, he hopes to recruit people for his quest, right? He wants to get people to try and help him, to come with him, to continue on his journey. My ideal goal here is to get some kind of traveling carriage that we can call home, right? Something with a couple of horses, something that we can live on and use to go from place to place to be able to find all these things. But currently, I think Willie has like 8 silver in his pocket. It's just him and Charles, of course. And I basically want to set the timeline to where we've just just been kicked out of this town, right? So we're just leaving this town. And I think, in my mind, Willie has spent years in this library. So the world around him has changed. So it's going to be fun to explore it and him to be able to explore things for the first time, like together, right? So he's just been kicked out of the town. We're wandering down the trail and trying to find our first bit of civilization. And that is where our story is going to begin. I really hope that I covered everything in that little bit here. I've been thinking about this story for, goodness, like a month while I've been reading through DragonBane and learning all the rules. So I really hope that I covered everything for you guys. If not, I'll fill you in as we go. But I hope this is a fun example for you to start your own story as well. Because here on the Grouch Couch, I like to teach and try to get other people to join our solo TTRPG scene, right? I really, of course. So I hope that this is some kind of inspiration to you. I always try to get some grand scale campaign, if that's what I'm going for, some big overarching story that no matter where we end up by the dice rolls and the, of course, random card pulls, we can still be accomplishing something and moving forward in our story in the long term. So that's always my idea. Lastly, if you have any more questions for me, please do leave them down in the comments section below. I try to think of my solo stories here as interactive, at least a little bit. I like to take ideas and NPC suggestions and other kinds of ideas from you guys down there in the comment section. So if you have a fun NPC you want me to try to include in the story, or if you have an idea for maybe a mishap that could be happening in a village that Willie might wander into, I like to compile some of those things, your guys' comments, and put them into a roll chart. And even if you see that this first video here of the series went up a couple months ago, still leave a comment down there because I do my best to check each video for good comments that would be relevant to our story moving forward. So make sure to leave a comment down there of any ideas that you might have, and I'll do my best to include them in the story. And I say that is enough YouTube jibber jabber and how to play our game. Now we're just going to begin. And I do have actually, this here came with both decks. So the even deeper deck has even crazier stuff in it. And I'm going to shuffle both of these together. But it's time to talk a little bit about how our story begins. Willie the Wizard has just been kicked out of his home village. He has gathered up his things, heads up the trail. And Willie walks the narrow trail as it slips away from this village. I think the sounds of voices and doors fading behind him. The path in front of him is not abandoned, but is old. Pressed earth, broken twigs. The trees narrow in and crowd on either side of this trail. Their branches knitted together overhead, giving shade sometimes as he walks. Now, without a map, every bend in this trail feels like a small decision made, the road kind of choosing its own direction. Somewhere ahead, he hopes to hear the clanging of metal or even see the burning of smoke from a hearth. Somewhere that he will be able to sit and breathe, a new village. Somewhere he might be able to find people and friends, get a little bit of shopping done to prepare himself for the adventure forward. But for now, there's only the steady rhythm of his steps and the sense in his mind that the world has just gotten wider and he is alone. As, of course, he talks and mutters to himself and his staff, Charles. So here is the first thing we're going to do in our system. We're actually going to make a bushcraft intelligence roll. Now, Willie is a mage under the profession of animism because he is a lightning and thunder wizard. I've always imagined him dealing with wind and lightning and stuff like that. So we actually made him a wizard of animism, which means he actually gets a little bit of beast lore and bushcraft and stuff like that. There are some professions that he is trained in, which I believe he learned from his readings at the Grand Library. But here's the first thing we're going to do. We're actually going to make a bushcraft roll. We're going to see if Willie manages to stay on the path, even if it widens and thickens, and even if there's some things in the way. We're going to make a bushcraft roll to see how well he navigates through this forest, hoping to get to the next town. Now, if we fail on this bushcraft roll, we're actually going to be failing on a journey, which means that we might have to roll on the mishap table. But if we succeed, we might come across a new location. And since we're on a trail, we're actually going to give Willie a boon in this. And this is the first roll of the campaign. You also, hey, fingers crossed. Let's see what we get. We actually rolled a dragon. You see that? We got a 10 and a dragon. Okay, so he's doing very, very exceedingly well. Now we actually have a roll table here in Foundry that actually gives us dragon effects, and it's a D6 roll, so I'm going to go on ahead and roll that as well. That's a 5. You trigger an unexpected beneficial effect. Unexpected and beneficial effect. So first of all, this obviously means we're going to come upon a location and Willie's going to be able to navigate to it perfectly. But an unexpected effect, I think what we're going to do is we're actually going to get an idea and a quality here from our deck of cards. We can see here, you can get an idea and a quality. So like this first one here is Amethyst Earthworms, which would be crazy. But what we're going to do is we're going to shuffle and we're going to look at the card and see if anything in it sticks out to us. All right, from the top, we'll grab 2 cards. We're going to flip the top one over. Okay, does anything stick out to us? We have, looking over these, I think, so right here on this top card, we actually have a word right here that says rare resource. And that could be very good. So first off, he got a critical success on navigating the trail. So he gets an extra benefit to navigating the trails itself, right? So here's kind of what I'm thinking with rare resource and navigating the trails. Before we figure out that upcoming location, I think that as Willie is walking, muttering to himself, the trail bends just enough to kind of catch his attention. And I think Willie sees it by accident at first, but he's just paying supreme attention to this trail being in this new area. But there's something out of place along the path. I think something that other people would have totally just walked right past and ignored. I think he finds a hidden trail off the track that maybe has just been made recently. And I think that it leads to maybe a little area of stillness off the side of the road as he walks up it. Like maybe someone made camp here previously. They're not here anymore, but there's like a little fire pit that he can see. And I think that beneath some rocks, he's just kind of looking at the campsite, and beneath the rocks, beneath like some litter from the people who were camped here, like some old bones and some discarded cloth and stuff, he kicks it aside and he sees this rare resource. And now I think we're going to ask our yes or no questions here. Or let's see if we have a roll chart to see what this resource is. Now we could just pull from the treasure deck, but again, I feel like DragonBane has a lack of items, you guys. I really do. I feel that way pretty hard. But what we're going to do is we're actually going to roll on the interesting item scavenge chart, which is a D4. That is a 1. So an interesting item, a key. And now that we know that we have this key, we can actually, on Foundry, we can open up our character sheet. Then we can go to items. We can go over to our ornate key and we can drag it onto our character sheet, just like that. So now if we go to our inventory, we actually have an ornate key in there that he has found. Some kind of rare resource. He sees it down there and he goes something like, "Oh, what's this? Someone left something important behind. What do you think of that, Shaw? Must not be an important key, but I say we take it anyway." And then we note this place. This is a safe off the path campsite that has already been prepared for us, so we kind of note it. If we get lost anywhere, we can always come back and check this out, depending on what our next location is. So he's going to, maybe this location is even connected to this little path. Maybe there's another little trail that comes off of this location that comes off of the campsite that goes to this upcoming location that he sees, right? So it's a little campsite that goes around. Maybe it's a back way to a village or behind a tavern or something like that. Could be. So actually what I want to do is this a fantastical location or is this just a village? I'm actually going to ask that question before we pull from the cards. Is this a back alley to a village? I'm not even going to call it likely or not. We're just going to roll. Here we go. There we go. That is a 3. No, it's not the back way to a village. Okay, so that means it is a fantastical location. So let's pull us some cards to get us a fun location going. And what I do when I pull these cards, what you're going to do, you have 2 cards here, right? And you can flip them around in any orientation that you want, right? The kind of way that I'm playing is that I have to use something from these 2 cards when I pull them. So to kind of push myself a little bit, but I could currently have 4 locations. So we can do the locations that way, or we can turn the cards over and we can do the locations this way. What makes sense for there to be a campsite nearby? I kind of like the idea of there being a prison here, and it could be a specialist prison. So we can see here. This is a back way to a specialist prison. And we just found a key to a prison. And if this is an off-the-trail route here, then it for sure goes to the back of this prison. There's no way that it's going to go to like the front entrance, right? So as we approach the back of this prison, do we see any windows with like bars or, like up high? Like we could look in to see maybe who is in there. Is there any kind of windows with bars on the back side here? That is a 6. Okay, extreme yes. So I think not only is there windows with bars, but there's absolutely someone who is there already, like outside of the bars, like with their hands out, like they're expecting someone. Maybe the person they were expecting didn't show up, but they were the person from that campsite. Maybe something happened to them, but instead of getting those people, they get me, Willie the Wizard. And we walk up and we see this person, and who does this person look like? I want to see. Here we go. We have a create an NPC kin roll chart right here, which is a D6, so we can see what kind of species they are. 3. That is an elf. Before we do some dialogue, we can also roll for their motivation, and we have a D8 here. I really like these dice a lot. They feel good. They're really, I mean, they're just classic dice, but they're just nice, you know? Okay. An elf whose motivation is what? 3? Deep and eternal love. What? That's not the worst thing ever. But they're in a specialist prison, right? So this is a prison for a specific kind of person. Here on this other card, the same cards here that we're using for this scene, we have blasphemy. Folk concept blasphemy. I think I like that a lot. And their reputation here on the same card. See, there's a lot of things you can get from one little set of cards. Is Heartless Poet right here at the bottom. So we're using a lot of different things from these single cards. And I just love them so much. They're just so cool. All right. So Nervous Spirit Blasphemy. I mean, it's right underneath. So Willie approaches the prison and sees the window and sees this elf hanging out of the window. So we want to see if they're a male elf or a female elf before we continue describing this narrative scene here. In Table Fables, we have gender. That is a 1. So it is a male elf. And I think we hear him. He says like, my love, have you come with the key? And then emerging from the bushes is Willie. And he's like,
What's up? What'd you say?
My love. Oh, old man, have you seen my love? She was supposed to come today with the key.
He goes, no, I did find a fucking key though. Is this what you're on about?
and he holds up the key and he's like,
Yes, please, come forward.
and he's like,
And what the hell are you gonna do for all this guy right here? You better speak up. Who are you anyway?
and we go back to Table Fables. And we've got male names on a D100. Wait a minute, now did they not include 2D10 in this dice set? Surely they did. I must have just lost it. So we'll pull out another 10 here. 68, spelled like that, we have Paramon.
It's like, Sir, you seem like a Grand Maester, old in your ways. I am Paramon. I was separated from my love. You see, I am a poet, a bard, and I sing in the town, the village nearby. And I was brought here and imprisoned, for they believe my words to be blasphemous. My songs, they believe it to be against everything they believe in. But for I am just creating art for my love. My form, it is but art.
And Willie's like,
Okay, Paramon, but you still ain't answered my question. What you gonna do for old Willie the Wizard if I give you this here key? You wanna help me get to that town of yours? We can go together, me and you, Paramon.
And he's like, Yes, of course. I must find my love. If she did not come this morning, her camp was nearby. Something must have happened to her. So I must go back to the village and find her, for my love must not be lost.
I just picture this guy like kind of like a Xanathar kind of guy, you know, like a super like lovey-dovey, artsy-fartsy and like fancy clothes, you know? Big-time bard poet. Absolutely going to be a bard if he joins our party, 100%. And Willie's like,
All right there, guy. You've got yourself a deal. Now I'm gonna give you this key. But if you do not stay true to our deal, I will bring down magic, the wrath of which you have never seen.
And he's like, No, of course. I will do this for you.
And then I think Willie approaches and goes to give him the key, but I think Charles in his mind speaks to him before he gives him the keys. He's holding it because we got to bring Charles in as much as we can, right? And I think he's like, hey, don't trust this guy. What do you mean? I say we kill him.
Now shut the fuck up, Charles.
And then he's going to give the elf the key, and Willie's like, okay, I'm going to go to the campsite. I'm going to wait for you. You meet me there.
And he's like, can do.
And then I think he disappears from the window. And Willie's just standing there and he's like,
well, shit.
Then he uses his staff and he walks back to the campsite. And then I think we sit there and we wait. And I really want to roll to see if Paramon actually shows up. Not only to see if he stays true to his word, but to see if he can make it out of this prison that they've put him in. Obviously, if he's got a key, like all is well. Maybe we've been walking for so long on the trail before we even made it to this campsite that it's actually kind of late at night. So it's nighttime in the prison. So that's going to give him a little bit ease of way to get through. That also means that we need to sit here and rest anyway. because we've been walking for so long. In this game, you actually cannot take 3 stretches of time in a journey, so we can say that we've already done 2, and we're going to take this 3rd stretch of time to rest and sit and wait. And we actually have 4 rations with us that we have to eat once a day, so we're actually going to eat one of those while we sit on this chair, or like on a rock, I think. And I think Willie is going to pick up all the garbage that was there and like dig a hole and put it away to make the campsite nice and clean. And then he's going to, like, since the campsite was already made, we actually don't have to make a bushcraft roll, and he's just gonna light up his fire, and he's gonna like make some warm tea and eat it with his like crackers. I imagine the rations are just like crackers, so he's just gonna make like some tea with like some leaves and things he finds around, and he's just gonna sit there with his nice tea and just rock back and forth on this rock and just wait for Paramon. And we're going to see, we're gonna roll it with a boon, so we're gonna roll 2 dice, and we're gonna take the higher number to see if Paramon actually shows up. Okay, that is a 5 and a 3. So 5 is yes. So that's good news. That means that he actually is going to show up. What is the manner in which he shows up, I guess, is another question I have. I want to just assume that Paramon at least has a 10 in stealth. And so what I actually want to do is I'm going to roll a d20 just to see how stealthy he was escaping the prison, right? And if he fails, he is going to show up, but he's going to be chased at the same time. So we'll see what happens here. That is an 11, which is really close. It's still a failure, but it's really close. So I'm actually going to say that he's not being like immediately chased, but as he approaches the campsite, he looks up and he goes, "Maester, I'm here. Let's go. We must leave. Hurry, quickly." And Willie's like,
"Well, fuck off. First of all, I am not a maester. Okay, you may call me Willie the Wizard, or you can call me the coolest dang wizard you've ever seen in your whole fucking life. All right? I'm a badass. You want some tea?"
And he's like, "No, quickly. We must leave. Look."
And there's like through the tree line, you can see like torches, right? And maybe like a dog barking or something. Like they're just leaving the prison and coming around. Like they weren't immediately on his trail, but they did catch on. And Willie goes, "Oh shit." And he throws his tea on the fire to put it out. And then they run back out to the trail in the middle of the night. And they quickly, he's like Willie's with his staff, like trying to push as fast as he can. And Paramon's just like hoofing it. He's like, "Come on, keep up, old man, keep up." And he's like,
"Fuck off, I'm not old."
And he's just like with his stick. And then we're going to reach the village nearby. I think it's going to be another stretch of time. So good thing we rested, because the sun is going to be rising, because we're going to like be running through the night. Is these, I don't even know who they are. Maybe we'll figure it out later. Someone is now going to be chasing Paramon, and Paramon's trying to find his love, right? And we'll roll on it later. Maybe there's like a religion. Maybe there's a cult. Maybe a good question for you guys in the comments to see what the heck is what. But we're going to arrive to this nearby village, okay? Is it a village or is it a town? Let's go ahead and roll. We actually have scale right here, as we can see. So we're actually going to roll on scale on the fortune chart to see how big this place is that we come up on. That is a 6. It is a immensely large, obviously it's not a village, it's a town. It's got a lot going on in it when we arrive at it. Like we get to the entryway and Willie goes,
"Holy shit, this was only a day's walk away from where I've been. That's fucking wild."
Paramon goes, "You don't get out very often, do you, old man?"
And Willie goes, No. You see, I've been in the library for, goodness, I don't know how long. The world is in peril, Paramon. Something is going on. We must talk about it soon."
And he goes, "Okay, sure, but first, I must find my love."
And that there is going to end scene 1, I think. The way that I like to structure my solo games is I try to do it in scenes. And at least every episode that I do, if you've watched my previous recordings, you might notice this a little bit. But if I can, I try to do 3 to 5 scenes every episode pretty much, depending on how long each scene takes. But it's going to end scene 1 completely as we arrive to this huge city, immense city that wasn't that far away. So this could be a really good hub for us to return to on and off a lot. One thing I will say, when it comes to roll charts for developing locations in DragonBane, all of the location detail roll charts are pretty much for dungeons. It's very helpful, right? This game pretty much assumes combat and action all the time. It's not very narrative heavy, and that's why I have so many extra supplements that I'm using to play with. So when it comes to combat and when it comes to dungeons, we will be doing dungeons in this game, obviously. I would be remiss if we didn't. It wouldn't make sense to do DragonBane and not do that. But that being said, we're going to have to flesh out some of the locations of this here city. First off, I'm going to go out on a limb here and just assume that this city is heavily religious, being that there is a prison nearby that specifically locks up people for being blasphemous. So I'm already going to assume. Secondly, we know that the terrain of this city is forestry because we just spent a lot of time in the forest. So I'm going to assume that there's a lot of lush, trees on the outsides of the city, even in between if we can. But thirdly, we need some inspiration. So we're going to draw up some cards. And I'm also thinking now I absolutely should have rolled athletics or acrobatics for both of the characters when they were trying to escape the guards. I absolutely should have done that, but we move forward. All right, we've shuffled and we're going to draw us some cards for inspiration. I'm just going to pull the 2 right here off the top, just for visual help or anything else like that. I'm going to flip this one. So what have we got? Urban ambiance. We've got hexagonal ledges. So that to me says that there are a lot of 2-story houses here that are going to have ledges, like front porches off of the front of them. Maybe people are up there hanging out, doing their laundry, anything else like that. We're going to assume there's a bunch of 2-story homes. That's an easy one. We also have resource down here, that is jade. So I'm going to assume that this city has a lot of jade things happening. Maybe like jade jugs lining things filled with water. Maybe there are also like some jade statues. And then we also have reputation. We have grumpy gargoyles. So there are going to be also gargoyles perched. Do those have any significance to any readings that Willie has done? The gargoyles themselves. That is a 4, which is a yes. So he sees the gargoyles. He knows something about them. But what does he know? Let's roll on our character sheet as well. We have myth and legend. So we're actually going to roll myth and legends just to see if he can recall what any of that means. We only have a 10 in myth and legend. That is a 2, that's wonderful. So he can recall what's up with these gargoyles. Sanctum of storytellers. Maybe he turns to Paramount, he's like,
those old gargoyles up there. I read in a book that those old gargoyles used to protect and serve a sanctum of storytellers. Yes, it's true. They used magic to bring those bad boys to life. Have you ever seen a gargoyle move?
I think Paramount's like,
I have not, but I think that sounds like a fantastical story. You must tell me more of this. Sanctum of storytellers. I will write a song.
He's like, oh, don't go getting your head of yourself now. It's not that fun. They were a bunch of bitches. They'd sit around just reading all day. I guess that's what I did. They would sit around telling stories to each other all day. Real ones, fake ones.
All right, so we've got gargoyles, we've got jade, we've got big 2-story buildings. I think that kind of fleshes us out a little bit here, and I like that a lot. I'm going to flip over the cards just to see if I see anything else. I think the last one we'll add in here is this one here that says there's a front for fungal druggists. So people that are like selling mushrooms. And then we also have, if we flip this over, we have a mom and pop sanitarium. So I think Paragon's gonna be like, Paramon is like, that place over there. I'll tell you this, old man, you stay out of there. They sell a lot of black market fungi, things for mentalists, if you will. They are not actually a sanitarium, as much as they say that they are. I don't know the key word, but if you learn a secret phrase, apparently, you gotta get in the back. They'll sell things to you. Okay, so I'm cool with all that. We're gonna put those cards to the side. One last thing I want to figure out is what is the name of this here village? And I also want to say, I think this whole time as we're walking, we're describing this area. Those two are walking through the city, and Paramon's totally giving him the whole show, showing him where everything is, stuff like that. All right, some of these names really work for city names as well. So we're going to roll on that. We've got 73. We've got Polgara is going to be the name of our first city. Polgara, Polgara. And Paramon's like, welcome to Polgara, Willie. Where are you going to go? And I think Willie's like,
well, this is my first time being anywhere like this. And the first thing I'm going to need to do is earn some cold hard cash. Because I've got a long adventure ahead of me, Paramon. You see, there is evil magic polluting this world. And I must put a stop to it before it's too late.
Paramon's like, oh, really? I don't know if you're just a crazy old man or if what you say is true.
He's like, oh, you'll see. I'm sure a page from the Sanctum of Ash and Scale is here somewhere, and you'll see when it emerges. For now, I must find a place to conversate, look up rumors, find a way to make some gold. Because I have things to buy. And if something weird and magical pops up, Paramon, you come, you tell me. Where can I find you?
Does Paramon have a house here in town? Let's roll for it. That is a 4, which is a yes. And he's a bard, so he probably doesn't make a lot of cash. But he's probably like, yeah, I've got a small cottage. It would actually be pretty great if it was nearby the tavern. Is it nearby the tavern? I'm going to call it likely. That is a 4, which is a yes. Cool. So yeah, it's a couple houses down from the tavern, actually. So I'll take you there, and then I'm going to go home and see if I can find my love. Which is pretty sweet. And so I think actually before we build out this here tavern, we're actually going to, I want to roll, I'm going to call it unlikely that his love is at the house, because we don't know, what's going on with her, where she might be. So I'm going to call it unlikely. Whoops. That is a 2. And when I'm rolling unlikely, just so you know, or likely, I just roll 2 dice and I take the lower or higher number. That's what I do. So he will eventually find out that his love is not at his house. At which point we assume he'll come back to Willie to talk to him about it. The craziest thing, though, here in the halfway point, I actually want to say I'm not using these cards the way that I thought I was going to, but I think I'm getting a lot more use out of them than what I thought. My original envision, and you'll see in the tutorial video that I post, is that actually when you need an adjective or style, you just pull for that specific one. If you need a word, if you need something that happens, or anything else like that, you just pull those specific ones. But I'm actually finding that when I'm building out full scenes, I can pull the 2 cards and just use everything from those 2 cards to try and build things out. And that saves me from having to pull more cards or roll more dice. And I think I kind of like it a lot. We'll see if that pattern changes while we play, but definitely fun. Giving us some really fun, evocative words to try and then work with and fit into places. So that's really cool. I hope that the way of me using these is also fun to watch. Let me know. Okay, so as we approach this tavern, we're going to flesh this tavern out. And we're going to be doing that with Table Fables because they have literally everything we need in here to do so. There's literally a section in this book called Tavern Generator, and that's what we're going to be using. So, first of all, we roll a d12 twice to come up with the name of this bad boy. Got a 4, which is the Windy, and then a 3, the Windy Shepherd. The Windy Shepherd's pretty good. Now, we also have the quality of this place, overall quality. That's a 2, which means it's good. It's not great, but it's good. And how much does it cost to purchase things here? That is a 1, which is extravagant. This place is super expensive. It's the Windy Shepherd. Now we have occupancy. So as we approach and we walk inside, it is quiet here at the Windy Shepherd.
Yeah, you're too expensive.
But what is the atmosphere like? We have a D10. That's a 1. The tavern is dim as we walk inside. An intoxicating mix of candle and pipe smoke hangs in the air. The floor is shiny, and your boots stick to the boards. Despite its rather ramshackle appearance, the innkeeper seems cheerful and hums to themselves behind the bar. So we leave Paramon. He goes on his own way. Hopefully he'll come back to us. We walk inside the Windy Shepherd. So as we enter the tavern, even though it's empty, I think the first thing we got to do, obviously, is we're going to have to build out this barkeep. So we're going to jump over to our roll charts here in Foundry. We're actually going to roll up what kind of kin this guy is, this barkeep, whomever it is. We're going to roll us a d6. That's a 2. It's a dwarf. Of course it is. He must know about the forbidden gates, this dwarf. To the dwarven kingdom. Yes. Let's see. I love roll charts. I like roll charts a lot. Cool. So is it a male or female barkeep? 4. It's a female dwarf. Okay. What is their attitude towards us as we enter in? 1. Hostile. What? Why? What is their motivation? D8. 4. A lifelong oath. A lifelong oath has made them hostile toward. Oh, we also have names here. That's cool. 20. Rolling it. That's an 8. Galina. Galina the dwarf is hostile towards us as we enter because of a lifelong oath that they have. Lifelong oath. Huh. The only thing, I could think is the fact that, obviously Willie is a spellcaster, right? First off and foremost. So it has to be something to do with that. She could right away tell that he's of some kind of ancient spellcasting, something going on. So I think that Galina's hostility has nothing to do with personal matter in the moment. I think right away, long before Willie even passed through the door, she has this oath. So the oath has to have something to do with her dwarven clan, something to do with spellcasters. And I think it's simply this: never give aid, shelter, or honest trade to spellcasters who don't have a sworn master or guild mark. Because maybe in this city, because they're overly religious, all the spellcasters must have a publicly visible mark of their guild where their magic comes from, or some kind of master. And so when Willie walks in, she right away is like, "We don't serve your kind in here. You better go on and get out. Spellcasters without marks are not welcome here in the Windy Shepherd. Go on. Get out then." And Willie's like,
"Well, fucking wait now, just a minute. I may cast the occasional spell here, but I'm not here to do you no harm. I just have some questions." She goes, "No fucking harm, huh?"
And I think in that, Willie's being honest, and this actually calls for a dice roll. Will she be civil enough to let him stay? Can he convince her? So this isn't bartering or bluffing. This is straight up persuasion. He's like,
please, I've just got some questions.
I just mixed the accents together. That was crazy.
Oh, come on, please. I've just got some questions.
We have to get under a 10. I'm not going to give it a boon or a bane, just straight up under a 10. That is an 8. Sick. So she's like, fine, I'll give you 10 minutes, but I'm not going to serve you anything. No drinks for you. I think Willie's like, well, how much is a beer anyway? She's like, 5 silver. And he goes, holy shit, you guys are expensive. I don't want to buy from you anyway. And I think all we're trying to do is figure out some kind of rumors. We want to see if there's any kind of crazy magical stuff happening here in this town, Polgara. So he's going to go in there. And one of the reasons I made this setting the way that I did, the background and everything, was because I found this cool roll chart that actually gives us magical effects, random magical effects and random magical curses. And so we can actually ask questions. Since we succeeded on our persuasion roll, we're going to go in and he's going to sit at the bar and he's going to go,
well, shit, okay, Carolina. That was your name, right? I've just come through town. You see, there's been some strange going-ons, and I'm here to help. Have you heard of any kind of crazy magical shit going on? Any kinds of your friends knowing anything?
And we'll roll a d6. Has she... It's so early in the campaign, right? All the shit just went down. So the chances of someone having had found a page and already used it, like the next day, I'm going to call it really low. So I'm actually going to do we'll call it unlikely, and roll 2 dice and take the lower one. That is a 5 and a 6. So it's not an extreme yes, but yes, she has heard of crazy magical goings on. All right, so now we're going to roll a d100 on this magical chart. And we're going to use this as inspiration. We're not going to take it word for word, but it's going to be inspiration on this magical effect. That is a 91. And so I have magical effects and curses, whichever one makes more sense to me. I could actually put them together. This one says the target is always hungry and the target tastes blood. So, I mean, that's pretty good to put together. Tasting and hungry, that makes sense to me. That's pretty good. So she leans in. She's like wiping the bar so hard now. Not only is she upset that she's talking to an unmarked spellcaster, but she's also upset thinking about this rumor. And she leans in. She's wiping it down so hard and she says, people in town, they've been eating nonstop. Whole meals, vanishing, like they were never enough. And a few have started craving things. Oh, things that I will not mention out loud. But what I will say is that livestock have been found, just completely bled dry by the morning. Just that copper smell hanging in the air. And these rumors, people say. Some say they've seen things out there in the night, out by the livestock. Something holed up over there. We don't know what it is. But look, old spellcaster, if you're looking to get into some magic trouble, that's where you're going to start. And he goes, oh, shit. So it seems the pages have already gotten out then. Oh, no. She's like, pages, you say? And he goes, nothing for you to be worried about. And Galina, thank you so much for your time. I'll leave you be. Just know I'm here to help. If you hear of any more strange magic goings on, tell people to come to me. I'm Willie the Wizard, and I'm here to help. She goes, all right, get out of here. Go on, get out of here. And then he stands up with his staff, and he walks back outside. Then that would be the end of scene 2. You see how I'm doing this? You see, it all comes together, friends. So we built out the town, we built out the tavern, we've met a couple NPCs. That's pretty good. And we have a lead on a possible first magical page already. That being said, I do not want this first episode to be intimidating for anybody to get in, like as an entry point, but I want to do one more scene. That being said, Willie's actually going to, when he exits the Windy Shepherd, he's going to run back into Paramount. And I'm just thinking, like, what is the emotional state of Paramount? Is he holding himself together well? What I actually want to do is I'm actually going to roll a d6 and just say, is he holding himself together well? That's a 2. So no. So Paramount is kind of in tears and he's like crying and he finds Willie and he's like, my friend, she wasn't there. I went into my home and it was empty. Was there something wrong with his house? Was his home in shambles? Has it been ransacked? I'm going to call it likely, so I'm going to roll 2d6. That is 2 3s, sheesh, which is doubles, but that means absolutely no. His home wasn't ransacked. She has just gone. Did she leave him a note? I'm going to call it unlikely. That is 2 3s again. What the heck? No, she didn't leave him a note. So everything looks completely normal. So he's like, she wasn't there? I don't know where she would be. Willie, was there any signs of her at the campsite? And Willie's like, oh yeah, I mean, she's a litter bug. There was some more bones. You know, she made a nice campsite. There was some stuff there. I took care of it. Don't worry. I took care of the litter. And he's like, what? No, not the litter, Willie.
So she was there. He's like, yeah. Well, I mean, someone was, for sure. Absolutely. He's like, so I wonder where she went. I wonder what happened. She didn't come. She's not here. Willie's like, well, calm down now. Go on ahead and just calm down. Right? Take me to your house. Let's see it then. And he's going to walk him down. I want to see, what is the size of his house? Again, we're going to roll on scale here. That is a 2. So it's a moderate place. Very nice. We'll also take that for the things that he has. So maybe his wife works somewhere. Maybe she has a profession. Let's roll on that as well. And actually, I should just roll on his financial status is what I should do. Here we go. We got a D6. That is a 3. So he's modest. He's not even poor. He's living in a moderate home. He's got a moderate stuff. Okay, we have NPC class. This is a D20. Let's figure out what her job is. We know he's a bard. If they're moderate, then she has to have something going on. That's a 2. She's a doctor. So she's a healer in town. So yeah, she makes pretty good money, but he doesn't. So she supports them. And he's like, I don't know. She's healed a lot of people. You know, she has really valuable skills. It could be anyone trying to take her to use her. She's so smart. Willie. And he's like, okay. And they go inside his nice house. And, you know, I feel like we already established that most of the houses here are double stories. So there's 2 stories. There's probably like a nice little kitchen dining area on the bottom and then probably a nice room and stuff on top. And Willie's kind of just inspecting everything. Does anything stand out to him? Is there anything here? What we can do, so we're actually going to go back to our character sheet because we're actually going to roll a spot hidden. That's what we're going to do. And we have a 10. Let's see if Willie can see anything. And I think I'm going to give him a boon just because he has kind of like all the time in the world. There's nothing rushing him looking at stuff. He can just continue to look at stuff, which by the way reminds me, now that we've established our first page, quote unquote, I'm actually going to set a timer. So in the system, there are threats. There's threat timers. So once we start the next episode, I'm going to set like a threat timer and we're going to start counting on that as we go along. I don't know if I'm going to do action by action. I'm going to set each timer with its own different kinds of lengths depending on the severity of the pages and kind of what's going on. So it could be a day, could be one stretch of time, could be an action. We'll see. I'm going to use the threat timers in kind of my own way, right? And you could do that with any TTRPG rules. Do whatever you want. Okay, anyways, we got a boon. Does he see anything out of the ordinary? We got a 10 and we got a 16. So 10 meets our skill. So we do see something. It's time to roll some cards to maybe put together this mystery a little bit. It could have something to do with the page. I just thought about that. It really could. A couple good things here. We have Chase. And we have Mercurial, which is shapeshifters, illusionists, planewalkers, or masks. Oh my goodness. So is Willie's, oh man. So as we're looking around, oh man. So as we're looking around in here, Willie like opens like a broom closet and out of the broom closet comes this masked shapeshifter, like in like robes and just like rushes out of the broom closet and like jumps out a window, like, and Willie turns to Paramount and he's like, well, let's go. And they're going to chase after him. So we have our skill of acrobatics. Willie is an old man. He's not a very good acrobatic kind of guy. We're going to assume that Paramount is, hold on, let's see if we have any spells we can activate. We haven't done any spells yet, which also, by the way, if I don't think I mentioned it at first, but on his spells, I actually gave him additional spells on his character creation, including sense magic and dispel magic, which is a trick. They're basically like cantrips if you're coming from 5e, and dispel, which is an extra general spell that I did give him. So this guy's going to jump out the window and I'm going to roll acrobatics for Paramount. Willie knows better, but what Willie's going to do is he's going to try to cast ensnaring roots on this person is what he's going to try to do. But Paramount, I would say that he's probably trained in acrobatics. He's like a young bard kind of guy. So he just got to be to 12 and we'll make his character sheet. If he does decide to stick with us, we'll make his character sheet. That is a 2. So he jumps out that window, like front flips, and Willie runs out to the window. And we're kind of in initiative. So we're going to go shapeshifter, Paramount, and then Willie. And then we'll actually start rolling initiative cards if we need to. So the shapeshifter just ran, like dashed. And Willie is going to try to do ensnaring roots on this. The victim is ensnared by roots and branches and unable to move. Breaking free requires an evade roll with a boon, power at level 1, at 2, and with a bane at level 3. Each attempt counts as their action in combat. Only one attempt is allowed per round. So he has to beat a 12. But since he's running away, it sucks, but I really want to give him a bane on this. And we just got to hope that we don't get a demon on this roll because magical mishaps are not good. So let's do it. And we're spending a wisdom or a willpower. So it's going to put us down to 1 willpower. Here we go.
That is a 6 and an 18. So we totally miss. So Willie runs out to the window and throws up Charles and tries to cast ensnaring roots, and all these roots and branches come out from this tree like whoosh, and then I think you can see Paramon dive through the branches and like rolls and continues chasing after this masked guy. Okay, now it's time for initiative cards. Okay, I've got us a map here. This is a beautiful map, which, by the way, is a reminder, came out of the map library by Roll and Play Press. I don't have an affiliate link, but they did send me this for free for the purposes of a review back in the day, so I'm using it now. Pretty nice little map. This is from the Urban Settlements little section. We got us a token here for Paramon. It really isn't like a bard, but it is kind of like an elf, so I guess we're going to go with that. We're going to be here, right? This is Paramon. He just jumped out the window, and then we've got Willie the Wizard in the house still, looking out the window. And then I'm going to use this coin here for the shapeshifter. Okay, I'm going to tell you more about how the enemy is going to work in a second, but first, let's roll our initiative cards. This is for Willie, 6. This is for Paramon, and this is for the shapeshifter, 8. So the way that the initiative works in this game is you actually go upwards in battle. Each person or thing can only do one action. You could also do a reaction not on your turn, but that takes your action, right? So you still only get one action per round. So first is Paramon. So he's obviously going to move right up to the enemy. And Paramon's a bard. So here on the bard sheet, he absolutely has a knife for sure. He has a flute for sure. He gets the heroic ability of musician. And he is skilled in acrobatics, just like I thought. Your beautiful voice instills courage in your friends or fear in your foes. Activating this ability in action in combat gives all allies within 10 meters a boon to all rolls or a bane to all enemies within the same range. Choose one or the other. The effect lasts until your turn in the next round. So you can spend 3 willpower to do this, and he has to have a performance of 12, which I'm sure he does. On second thought, gonna stay here, and he's actually gonna sing us a song, like,
Willie, Willie, he's a wizard, he's a man, he's the best they ever seen, he's the only one that can get him.
Pretty good, huh? And then actually going to take up his action. So we're going to flip his card. Now it's Willie's turn. Now Willie has Master Spellcaster as a feat that he has, which means he can cast 2 spells in a turn by spending an extra 3 willpower, which we're going to do. And our first spell, once again, is going to be Ensnaring Roots. And I'm not going to give a boon to him this time, since we've kind of settled a little bit. So we're going to do Ensnaring Roots. He has to beat a 12 to try and ensnare the guy. We fail on a 14. That's a fail. So more branches come in. We're going to do Lightning Flash, which is, once again, he needs to roll to hit. And I'll explain what that does. A 20 and a 17. So we also miss again. Good thing they were boons and not banes. Well, we're going to spend our willpower anyway. So we done spent it. Those are both of our actions. And with this here enemy. So there's a couple different things we can do. But what I want to do is just say, does he run? And I'm going to call it very likely. Continue running away. That's a 6 and a 5, which is an extreme yes, which means he's going to dash. So whatever he is, it's going to get like full 40 meters of movement speed. We'll go all the way over to the corner. So we have one more round to try and do something, or it's basically over. And if he gets the higher initiative card, it's over. And he has escaped. And it's kind of odd to do this. I think the actual DragonBane maps have each square as 2 meters. And in this game, most characters can move up to 10 and 20 meters. But by doing dash, they can move 40 meters. But these are supposed to be 5 feet because that's the way these maps were made. So we kind of got to just transpose it the best that we can. And I'm thinking that a dash will get him to right about there. And I'm cool with that. All right, rolling again. For Willie, 7. Not looking good. For Paramon, 2. Nice. For the enemy, 6. All right, so Paramon can probably move about half that much, so he could still see him, and he has a knife. I guess he's just going to throw it, and he's going to need to beat, let's call it a 12. That seems about average. We're only rolling 1 dice. That almost went off the table. That is a 6, which means he totally hits our first damage of the campaign, baby. Okay. A knife does a D8 of damage. Piercing, subtle, thrown. So we're just going to roll that D8. 7 full damage. I don't know what kind of creature this is. It's still a shapeshifter. We don't know what it actually is. So I'm just going to roll 2 dice. I'm going to say, does this... I'll flip his initiative card. Does this kill the creature? It's probably an NPC of some kind. I'm going to call it unlikely, though. So we're going to take the lower result. That's a 3, which is a no, sadly. So that means that on its turn, it's going to dash again, and it's going to disappear off into the streets. We've lost it. Sad. Time to clean up. So the shapeshifter gets away, which is crazy, which adds even more mystery to what's going on. So Paramon, we met them, escaped them from a prison. We actually went into this town, Polgara. We went into the Windy Shepherd. We learned that there's some kind of creature that is harvesting the livestock. And for some reason, or it could be a creature, it could also just be the people themselves that are doing this. Something has cursed this town. We believe it to be a page that is making some people insanely hungry and they can't stop eating, on top of livestock just being drained of their blood. Absolutely insane. And then we go to Paramon's house and we find a shapeshifter that probably has something to do with the fact that his wife has gone missing, but we don't really know. And we try to capture the thing or kill the thing and it just disappears. So that adds even more layers of insanity. So I think at this point, Willie and Paramon go back into Paramon's house and they sit down together. And I think that Paramon is just heartbroken. I mean, there was something hiding in his house while he was there, which scares the crap out of him. And his lover is just missing. And also, not to mention the fact that the church is still after him because they think that he has been performing blasphemous songs in this town. And that's like his income. So now he's scared to even work. And he probably explains that to Willie. And Willie thinks that this guy is probably a really good resource for him because he knows the area. If not even long term, good for while we're here, you know. But obviously, if his old lady's gone missing, he's going to start searching for something too as well. So Willie's hoping that maybe he'll join him in his adventure, going town to town and saving people from these evil pages, trying to find his love that has just completely gone missing in the middle of the night from a campsite. And she was a doctor, by the way, so she's very valuable. And without her and without him being able to perform, he ain't going to be able to afford food. They don't really pay rent in medieval times, but he ain't going to be able to afford food or nothing, so he kind of has to leave anyway. So I think he explains to Willie, he's like, I don't know what to do. If she is gone, we will stay here tonight, but I will pack my things up in a bag. I must go forth, ask questions. I must look around and see if there's any sign of my love anywhere. Which, by the way, I need to get a name for her so I can quit just calling her my love. You know what I mean? Which also, I just assumed it was a her. I didn't even ask if Paramon was straight. I didn't even ask that question. I just assumed. I guess we're in too deep now, but I definitely should have asked. So we're just going to assume it's his wife, quote unquote. So I'll pack my things, and we're going to go together, Willie. You're looking for what? And Willie sits,
well, the whole world's crazy, and there's this book called The Ashen Scale, and it was cursed and burned down the library, and I spread it in the world, and,
you know, and he's like listening to him about all this stuff, and he's like, okay, well, I'm going to come with you and help you with these pages, but in the process, I need to find my love, and as soon as I find her, Willie, I may leave the party, just so you know, but for now, I want to join. I can't be alone in this. She was the only one that I knew. I spent so much time with her, I didn't have any other friends. You're the only other person that I've spent time with in a long time. And not to mention that I was in a prison. How long was he in a prison for? Let's roll a d6. He was in it 1, so a short amount of time. Wasn't that long.
He's like, all right, well, for tonight, let's get some sleep. And in the morning, we must investigate the town. See what's going on with all the hunger in the world.
And that will end our 3.5 scene right there. And so that's where we're actually going to end our episode. The first one right here. That was a lot of fun. Pulling out maps and doing things, and you know what I mean? And the story always just crazy evolves. And it's always crazy to me when I sit down to solo play. I think I have this idea and I'm like, we're going to go in this town, we're going to find some pages, we're going to do some stuff. But then like NPCs pop up and other story threads pop up, and you know, and it's just crazy how it all comes together. Like when you sit down to play, you don't know what's going to happen. People think like, one of my rules around here is that we are not doing a creative writing exercise, right? We are playing a game. So even though I am a storyteller and I love telling stories, I was a dungeon master for forever. Even though I love telling these stories, we are still playing a game. So dice and randomness still need to be involved in our storytelling. And being able to combine it and just embrace whatever happens is just really cool. And I just love doing it. So if you have any questions about the way that I played today, please let me know down in the comments and leave your ideas for story threads and other things and a name for the proposed love down there as well. Okay. Wow. Thank you guys for watching. I really do appreciate it. Remember to use our links if you want to pick up anything that I've been using today down there in the description to help support the show. And I'll be back. We're going to be doing this once a week for a little while. So make sure to leave a like so you do not miss whenever the next one comes up. Hopefully every Thursday, there will be another episode right here of Solo DragonBane with Turk from the Grouch Couch. Thank you so much for watching. And I will see you guys in the next one. But first, take a seat on the couch and roll initiative. At least until a shapeshifter sneaks into your house and you chase them out and try to cast lightning on them, but you fail. And I'll see you all in the next video. A toodaloo! Woo! This was fun.